Hello and welcome to this Scientific Principles video with Elec Training. This video is about electronic components and we're going to look at capacitors and resistors. So capacitors first of all. Here's a picture of several capacitors. So the first thing you'll notice is that they come in different shapes and sizes. And here is a picture of the symbol that is used to represent a capacitor in a circuit diagram. Now the two symbols there are used, they're slightly different. There's a standard capacitor and an electrolytic capacitor. The only real difference with an electrolytic capacitor is it's the material that it's made of. Now capacitors have two electrical conducting plates. These are represented in the symbol by the two parallel lines, and the two plates are separated by something called the dielectric. Now a dielectric is essentially an insulator, and it's usually very thin, so that the separation between the two electrical plates is very small, but it is an insulator to prevent current from flowing across the capacitor. Now let's talk about the word capacitance. So it's obviously related to the word capacitor. The word capacitor refers to the component itself, and the word capacitance is describing what the capacitor does. And capacitance is the ability to store an electric charge. That's what we use capacitors for. They store an electric charge. The SI unit, so in other words the way that we measure capacitance, it's the farad. And capacitors are usually rated in microfarads, and there's the symbol for micro at the bottom there, microfarads. And that's because the unit of 1 farad is quite a large amount of capacitance, and most capacitors use quite a small, or they produce quite a small amount of capacitance, and so we measure it in microfarads. So capacitors store an electric charge, and that means they're storing energy, and they store that energy in an electric field. Now notice the similarity of the symbol that we use for batteries. So we've learnt in a previous video, here it is, the symbol for a battery is a long line, and then parallel to that a short line. The long line represents the positive terminal, the short line represents the negative terminal of the battery. So there's a similarity because we've also got parallel lines with the symbol for a capacitor, except they're both the same length. And that's important because in a battery there's a permanent positive and negative terminal. In a capacitor we don't identify a positive and a negative terminal on a permanent basis because it's actually going to constantly be changing. In an AC circuit, an alternating current circuit, the positive and negative terminal keeps switching around. So the important thing to see here though is that the similarity is that batteries also store energy. They store energy for a long time through a chemical process. So it's for a long time and it's by a different process. It's a chemical process in a battery. But with a capacitor, they store energy through an electrostatic process. And what happens is the energy is rapidly built up and then released back into the circuit. And this can happen many times per second, tens or hundreds or even thousands of times per second. The electric charge is built up and released back, built up and released back into the circuit, built up and released back. And that's the purpose of a capacitor, is to store the energy in an electric field and then to release it back into the circuit. Now we do have one warning here about capacitors, and that is that they store an electric charge. So once they've been charged up by being part of a live circuit, if the circuit is then turned off and so there's no live electricity in the circuit, the capacitor can still hold that charge. And so if you touch the terminals of a capacitor that's been charged, you won't be able to see that it's charged and the rest of the circuit appears dead, but you could get an electric shock off of a capacitor. And that's particularly important with things like fluorescent lights, because fluorescent lights contain capacitors, and it's very easy if you take off the cover of a fluorescent light and you think it's all switched off and safe, you just need to make sure you don't touch the terminals of the capacitor. And we're now going to look at resistors. So here's a picture of a number of resistors. Slightly different shapes and designs, but what you will see with all of these ones is that they've got coloured rings on them. And we'll talk about those coloured rings in a moment, but here's the symbol for a resistor. So in a circuit diagram represented by the rectangle, and just the two lines either side would effectively be where they're connected into the circuit. And we know already that resistors are components in a circuit that oppose the flow of current. So that's what a resistor does. That's the resistance. And therefore resistance is opposition to current flow, and it's used to limit the current. So within electronic components where we have resistors, they're specifically there to limit the amount of current that will flow in that part of the circuit. And we know the SI unit of resistance is the ohm, and shortened to the little omega symbol there, the Greek letter omega. And a common system for identifying the values of the resistor, how much resistance it provides, is this system of these coloured rings on the casing. And we're going to look at a table now that gives us a breakdown of what these values mean, or what the individual coloured rings mean in terms of the value of resistance. And here is the table that we use to work out the actual resistance of a resistor based on this colour banding system. So first of all, on the left hand side we've got the colours and the numbers that is associated with each colour, and then we've got several different columns here. So we've got 4-band resistors, 5-band resistors and 6-band resistors. So we take a look at the 4-band resistor as our easy example to look at. So we've got these colours. So first of all we've got red. So if we're going to write down the actual resistance value, for red we've got 2, so we can write 2 down. Then we've got purple. Well, purple represents 7, so we've got 2, 7. Then the next band represents the number of zeros, how many times we're going to multiply the previous numbers by 10, and the orangey colour there represents 3, so we'd have 3 zeros. So our value of resistance is 27000, or 27,000, or 27k. So that's the resistance in ohms, but there is a little bit of a gap and then one final band, and that final band represents the tolerance. So when these are produced in a factory, they're produced to varying different tolerances, how accurate the amount of resistance is. And this can be anything from 1% up to 10% tolerance, and so that colour will tell you the tolerance. So obviously if it was a 10% tolerance, it means that the maximum resistance that that resistor could have could be 27,270 ohms. Now you don't need to worry too much about memorising all of these colours and numbers. It's not often that a question would come up on this in an exam, but when it does, they will generally give you the table and a picture of a resistor, and with the colour bandings all you've got to do is refer to the table they give you to work out the resistance value. Or alternatively they might ask a question relating to the tolerance, so that if it was a 5% tolerance, you need to remember that the maximum value will be 5% more than the number, or the minimum number would be 5% less, and so on. So there we are. That's really all we need to worry about with resistors, apart from remembering that they are components that restrict the flow of current or oppose the flow of current, and that resistance is measured in ohms. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. We'll look at some more electronic components.